4 years at a prestigious college, followed by 4 years at a top-ranked medical school. Afterwards, a 5-year orthopedic surgical residency at an Ivy League school. 13 years of training behind me. And at my very first interview, at my very first big girl job, the first question I was asked was, "Who are you?" To which I responded, "I'm here for the orthopedics position. Didn't you get my resume?" To which he said, "But you're a girl." Fast forward to another interview. I was asked to interview in separate rooms with different male attendings. Most of them couldn't be bothered, totally uninterested, barely looked up from their computer. And the last interview shut the door behind me and looked me straight in the eye and said, "The entire department is concerned you're gonna get pregnant." Before I tell you which of those positions I took, let me take you back a bit. I didn't realize it at the time, but med school and residency were the easy years. I was young, I could bounce back from anything. I worked hard, played hard. I had nobody to take care of but myself. There was no social media at that time, which was great, no distractions from honing my surgical skills, but was bad because I had no role models or people that looked like me pursuing orthopedics. Only 6% of orthopedic surgeons in the US are women. I was lucky in that I went to a fairly diverse residency in New York City. They were mostly supportive, but there were still no female faculty or mentors. My parents and my brother always told me that I could do anything a man could do. So it's no wonder I had some rose-colored glasses when I entered my training. But those quickly fell off and reality set in when I started interviewing for jobs. I accepted a very sought-after position in Southern California. There were no women in the department, and I did notice that the young male surgeons were treated quite differently than myself. I moved within that organization to be geographically closer to my husband. Those first few years in a surgeon's career are extremely stressful. Surgically speaking, you're well prepared thanks to all those hours in training. But experience provides a skill set that can't be acquired without time and volume. You spend many sleepless nights, this time not in a hospital bed, but in your own home. You go over every step of that surgery over and over again. And when you perform that surgery that evening, you critique every move you made. Every good surgeon has complications. Every ethical surgeon bears the complications as weight on their shoulders. You have to have support. And this new department I was in also had no woman. These were all those pregnancy questions came from. And I had not one supportive male colleague. The male attending surgeons would call each other in the middle of the night if there was a difficult case. They would help each other out. They would discuss and commiserate about their complications. They would go to each other if they had a difficult case coming up and sort through all the ideas and research. When I called a male colleague, I was left to their voicemail. Nevertheless, I got in early, stayed late, took all of my calls through pregnancy, even operating on very physically demanding hip fracture cases till 2, 3 in the morning when I was 38 weeks pregnant. Came back early from my maternity leave at 6 weeks with no scheduled time to pump, and I was pushed out very systematically. So I had reached a pivotal moment in my career. Do I take this time to be at home with my 18-month-old and 3-month-old, regroup, pivot, maybe start working again in a few years? Or do I keep forging forward? My career confidence was at an all-time low. And most women may have welcomed this opportunity to stay home and raise their children. I have the utmost respect for those women who choose to stay at home, but it was not part of my identity as a surgeon. I had an incredibly supportive and loving husband who empowered me to continue and forge forward. So I cast a large, wide net. I took every odd job out there in orthopedics. I joined a practice. I started my own practice. I took locums roles, leadership positions. I drove 3-4 hours on windy roads to rural medical clinics to understand a little bit more about how orthopedic surgery was done and how practices were run. And I finally found peace and joy in a practice I designed myself because I designed it the way I wanted to. And I slowly started getting rid of things that didn't fit within my core values. Everything I did was outside of the box. At this time, my family had moved to the fast-paced Silicon Valley. And every single orthopedic surgeon said to me, "You can't start a practice on your own. That's dead. Nobody does that anymore. Why would the patients come to you, Pam? You want to try to have a concierge practice that's out of network? Who would come to you? You're not a better doctor. You're not a better surgeon." Well, it turns out they were wrong. The patients did come to me, and it turns out I am a really good surgeon. Even the way that I marketed, I noticed that when I went to the male primary care physicians, they would have a look of glazed over when I'd see them. I knew they were going to refer to their male bro orthopedic colleagues that they golf with on Thursdays. And so I shifted my focus. I went to every female provider out there: acupuncturists, chiropractors, dentists, massage therapists, personal trainers, everybody. I also shifted my focus on the hours I practiced. It's well known that surgeons have long hours. It was ingrained in me when I was in medical school. Can't have a family. You won't be a good surgeon. You have to get in early, stay late. Well, most surgeons start their day at 7 a.m. in the OR. I start my day at 10:30 a.m. While those surgeons are cutting, I'm preparing breakfast, packing my kids' lunches, and driving them to school. Around this time, I started my social media platforms. I thought it would be a great way to market for my practice. But it quickly pivoted into a women's empowerment forum. Young women and girls all over the country and some parts of the world slid into my DMs, asked me how it was possible to run a practice, raise my children, how could I be a surgeon and a good mom? And so as I was replying to them and making posts about these topics in medicine and for women, I also met a group of healthcare professionals online that were there to educate and advocate. We formed a nonprofit to fight misinformation online. And me and 2 other women started a nationally recognized conference for women in medicine. I remain authentic online and share my behind the scenes. So much so that BuzzFeed and CNN Health and other mainstream media organizations have picked up some of my posts that have gone viral at over 18 million views. I've also garnered some opportunities within companies to advise them, some which have never had a woman advisor or sat in their boardrooms. But more important than my story is the data. Women are facing a real crisis in the workforce. I can only speak to women in medicine. It's not new to anyone in this room that the US maternity leave policies are light years behind other countries. What was surprising to me is that women are leaving medicine. 40% go part-time or leave completely within 6 years of their training. And the pandemic only exposed the cracks in the system more, as more women left the workforce and medicine, not like their male counterparts because they were burnt out, because they had to tend to their home and their children and Zoom school. So the pandemic exposed these cracks, and I had a lot of struggles during the pandemic as well. These are two women I connected with during the pandemic. The woman to my left is a massage therapist in town. We were both struggling, as most small businesses were. We decided to refer to each other and go out into the community and market together and empower other female providers. And the woman on my right called me in the summer of 2020 and said, "I don't know you, but I'm on my maternity leave. I have a 2-month-old and a toddler, and I was just pushed out. Will you take me in your practice?" Sound familiar? So I had created this safe space in my practice, and I was leading Pinnacle Women in Medicine. But how could I create a table for other women to feel safe? And more importantly than that, how could I create these tables in well-established groups and organizations so women with the same core values could sit at it? So the first crisis I faced was when I decided whether I was going to work or stay at home. The second was during the pandemic. My own private practice was struggling, as most small businesses were. And I was home Zoom schooling with my children from 8 to 2 p.m. And I had to decide, was I going to take this other woman into my practice? And I'm so happy that I did. I also took another woman who had dreams of starting an aesthetics practice. Today, we all work alongside each other and are cultivating a culture in our office so that we all feel comfortable. We include things like our children, our outside hobbies, our vacations. And I truly believe that's what makes the office more productive. We encourage our staff to bring their children to work. We encourage them to talk about upcoming things going on with their children. And so much so that my office manager just told me 8 days ago that she's only 4 weeks pregnant. And instead of responding the way I was responded to, well, how are we going to get your calls covered? I congratulated her, I hugged her, and I said, how can we support you? So I continue to lead Pinnacle Women in Medicine with my 2 amazing co-founders. We're helping women all over the country design a life that they love without leaving clinical medicine. I also advise the Good Feet store and Figs, 2 companies that align with my mission and belief, and they allow me to create tables for other women. And I'm proud to announce that I am the Chief Medical Officer for AUG Health, the largest educational platform for healthcare professionals, led by an all-female executive team. So how do we make this table? Well, we stand up, we speak up, we create it, we foster it, and we commit to it. It's been insinuated through my entire surgical career, and now my entrepreneurial and executive journey, to not talk about my children at work. I've been told that I'm too bubbly, too outgoing, too happy. I've also been told, hey, maybe you don't need so much sparkles and pink heels. I clearly didn't listen to that one. The men have said, Pam, they won't take you seriously. But I challenge that notion. It is my work ethic and determination that are better because of my family, and I don't think it's a negative to talk about them at work. So I'll leave you with this today. What will you do and consider at your own table? What is your culture that you want to cultivate? What are your core values that you want to have? And who will sit at your table? I've been reading a memoir by Pepsi CEO and South Asian immigrant, Indra Nooyi. She doesn't think women can have it all. She points out there is a complete conflict between the biological and the career clock. And I agree with her, but I do think we can have it all. Maybe not on the same day, maybe not in the same season of life even. There will be ebbs and flows and different priorities each day, and some things will be dropped, and you'll have to pick them up on other days. For me, my career is not my whole identity. My family is not my whole identity. My passion projects and interests aren't my whole identity. But all the parts of me are my identity, and my table reflects this. So I can't wait to see the tables that you all create, because trust me, this new generation of women and men need one to sit at. Thank you.